Hello and welcome. I hope that you are doing well. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at using Node.js as a file server, as a method of serving files to users who interact with our server. So let's go ahead and go over to the code and see what we can do with that. So as we discussed in the last video, we're able to serve content through this result that's sent back, right? So when we send back this result, we were able to provide content type as well as content, and that would display on the page when we visited the server at port 5000. So this is a nice way to be able to serve some static content. However, in a lot of cases with JavaScript, we want to be able to serve full HTML pages. So in order to do this, we actually have to use Node more like a file server, which is what we're going to discuss here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by creating a simple HTML file. And we'll just call this test.html. And basically inside of this file, we're going to do just like a simple HTML setup. So I'm going to set up an HTML page. We will add in maybe a title. So it's like node page. And then we can add in a body for this. So we'll go body, h1, hello world. And then we can put in maybe a paragraph that says some text. So this gives us a very simple web page that we can try serving through our JavaScript server. So what I want to happen is when somebody visits our web page at port 5000, they get served this test.html page. This is a way of being able to display content based on where the user is visiting on our web page. Now, one question that you might have is, well, why don't we just do it the way that we did it in the last videos, where we just cut out node.js and people could just visit the web page directly? And there's a good reason for it. If you're going to set up your web page so that people can visit various different pages, right? Various different paths. So maybe there's like an index, maybe there's a buy, a store, a whole bunch of different pages that exist. One of the easiest ways to consistently serve this data is using a file server like node.js. In addition to this, if you want to be able to do something further, like develop an API, which is something that is able to essentially serve content based on a request, whether it be HTML content or actual data, the easiest way to set that up is through a server similar to Node.js. So we're going to see a lot of reasons why we might want to do this. So for now, this is something that we could have done without Node.js, but as we continue on, we'll see that there are a lot of benefits to setting things up in this particular way compared to the previous way that we were setting things up before. And the actual method to set this up is pretty straightforward. We're going to go ahead and add a new variable here, which I'm going to say is require fs. fs is file system. And what this is doing is it's including the functions and methods required in order to import files. So this is what this is allowing us to do. And then from here, what we're going to do is inside of the create server, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a file. I'm going to say fs.read file. And the file that we're going to read is going to be we call it test.html. And what we're going to do is we're going to read this file. Now, the way that we read this file is we read it inside of a function. So similar to the create server function here, we're going to add in a function here to work with. So we're going to say function, and there's going to be two things inside of here. There's an error, and then there's the actual data that was read from the file. So what this is doing is it's saying, okay, so we're going to create the server first. Then we're going to try to read the file test.html, and that's going to give us both an error and a data variable. The error variable will indicate if any problems happened with actually trying to read the file, and then the data will be the data that's contained in the file if it actually reads successfully. So if this actually does read successfully, what we're going to do is we're going to serve the content as a page. So how do we do that? What we do is we take this content that we had before, these two pieces here, and we can move them into this read function. So as we're reading the file, what we're going to do is we're going to write the header 200. This whole piece stays the same because we're still giving a success code. We're still writing text HTML content. So that all stays as is. The only thing that really changes here is that we can write in the data for the file. So we can say res.write data. Now remember that data is what is provided by this function if it succeeds in reading the file. So what's happening here is when it reads the file, it stores the data that's in the file in this data variable. From here, we're saying that the header of the request is going to be a 200 status code. And the content that's returned in this is text HTML. And then we actually are going to write in the data that's being returned. So we're actually writing the data into the response. And then what's going to happen is we're just going to return res.end. Res.end just indicates that we've reached the end of the HTTP packet. So basically, when this gets sent to the server, it uses this first part here, the header, to interpret what the data is. So it's a successful request that is formatted as text HTML. And then it looks at the data inside of the request, and it uses that data in order to display something onto the screen. And then this tells it that this is the end of it. So it just has that data, and then it ends, and everything is good to go. So this is really all there is to this general idea of index.js. So understanding that, let's go ahead and load up our web server and give that a try. So I'm going to node index. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come into my my file here. So let me just open up a web browser here. We'll go to localhost 5000. And as you can see, this is the HTML page that we wanted to serve, right? It says hello world as the header. The paragraph has some text in it, and that's really all there is to it, right? So you can see that it generally did just display the content that I put inside of the HTML page. So this gives you an idea of how we can use Node more like a file server to serve content onto the browser itself. So that's everything that I wanted to cover in this video. Thank you for watching. And in the next video, what we're going to do is we're going to dig deeper into this file server concept to take a look at how we can manipulate this to serve different files using the path that's provided by the URL.